A lot of them liked the idea, they liked the concept, and they were actually very intrigued at the fact that a guy was the one doing the book about what girls go through. Because most girls that grow up in a very traditional society, either in Hindu, Muslim, Chinese, whatever the background may be, when they come into that site, it's like, okay, this is who you're going to marry, or you have to start looking for a husband or a wife, and girls will they'll get up and they'll be like, the entire life they're being told you can't date, you have to marry within our society, you have to do this. And then all of a sudden one morning they're like, okay, after you're done with work, go online and start looking for a husband. And it's a complete 180. You can't date to go looking for a husband. There's no transition period. So girls that grow up in that traditional setting, they've been embedded with that knowledge, that sense that, okay, it's going to happen one day. But those that grow up in a westernized society, it's a little bit harder for them to grasp, because they see their friends going through school, with boyfriends and girlfriends, etc., and they can't. And then all of a sudden they're thrust into this limelight where they have to get married, and it becomes a bit of a conflict for them as to how to deal with it. And that's what I try to address. What I believe, it's purely an opinion-based book. And when it comes to relationships, I mean, there's no objective way to address it. It's purely subjective. So it's
I think a little bit of what you're saying is actually to the back of the book, and I'm going to read it because I found it funny. It said, the pressure of marrying young, to marry within your own community, religion, to marry someone they don't love, and if time is running out, the pressure just to marry anyone willing to say yes.
Yep.
And this is a reality you're saying that you encountered through this experiment, if you could follow.
Yeah, it's and it comes down to age. When the girls are between like 22 to 25, they're considered young, they're considered, still prime, grade A, if you want to call it. And so they have the option to be, okay, now do you say, are they picky, or do they just have higher standards? But then when time goes on and they hit like 32, 33, all of a sudden the parents are like, you know what, just find anybody, just take anything. If the guy breathes, we'll accept him. We don't care what flaws he has, we'll just take him, So, and it's weird, because why weren't the parents open or understanding initially? And that's one of the things, is that the pressure on the girls, especially, it's a lot for them to deal with. And as time goes by, and there was one reference I made in the book where, at a certain age, and it's not even the girl, it'll be the guy side of the family, especially if they're ultra traditional, they'll be like, oh, anything over 25, forget it, or, because she's set in her way, she's spoiled, they view it as that. And then there's that age range between, like, say, 25 to 28, where I compare, and this is really bad, I compare it to, like, you go to a picnic, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that potato salad's been sitting out for like a couple of hours. And you're not too sure. Should I not?
Get out of this life.
Not with you.
No, but you bring up an interesting point. I'm sure that even though the book is meant to be humorous and still talk about relationships, that you may be, in terms of the culture, rubbing some people the wrong way, especially single women. The majority of the book, the women were in the States. Are you prepared to face that? I mean, what is the response that you have gotten or expect to get?
Most guys are not prepared to face the wrath of one woman. Expecting to face the wrath of 50 women? No. No, I don't think any guy's brave enough for that. But for the most part, I think when they read it, they realize that it's something I'm trying to bring to light, that what they're going through. It's I'm not giving my perspective. I did not say, oh, well, this is the cutoff age, or this is the cutoff height, or anybody above this weight. No, it's up to you. Like I said before, it's a purely subjective process that you go through in terms of dating, what you look for, attraction, chemistry, so forth and so on. That, I cannot justifiably put and say, this is what you have to follow. As to these girls, hopefully when they read it, they're going to realize that it's something that they can take back to, because a lot of times the conflict arises between the daughter and the mother. The mother wants one thing, the daughter wants another, and they end up having fights. And it's one of those things where initially they were so close, and all of a sudden, the mother becomes one of the greatest enemies, because the greatest source of tension in the family is between them.
But I think irregardless of what tradition you may follow, I think women, especially in societies that encourage you getting married, face a lot of pressure. I know in Belizean societies, for a lot of women, it's having a child. You know, when you get to a certain age, you know, suddenly everybody's telling you, tick, 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 your clock is running out. You know, so I think it's a good point of departure for anybody thinking about the pressures that we exert on each other when it comes to having children, getting married, having a stable relationship, or choosing not to have a relationship at all. You know, that sometimes we lead people to become desperate and do things that probably in under normal circumstances they wouldn't. And I think that's a very good point that you're raising. I mean, I look at High Five, etc., and it bothers me quite a bit that you see people with a lot of half-naked pictures, you know, because I think, can I really be attracted to you? I mean, you know, when you see all these, you know, naked pictures, what are you saying about yourself? You know, that type of thing. So I think the pictures, even though it was just a headshot, is also a statement about what people are attracted to. You know, how superficial we are initially, and very few of us go beyond that to really get to know the person better.
It's a marketing ploy, and you mentioned the headshots, and there were countless profiles where the girl would only post a headshot and list herself as slim, and you're like, yeah, sweetie, I'm not buying it. Not even a discounting rate. You're not selling it to this Indian. No. They're like a nice little headshot from like 20 years ago. Hi, I'm slim. I'm good. And you're like, no.
Okay, Ajay, how did your Belizean, I mean, you grew up in Belize, and the book is marketed for the US, and also there's an Indian community in Belize, and most people can pick up this book for a good laugh. But how did your Belizean identity fit into, or the cultural context fit into